Hey, what's up you guys? Welcome back. So we're back in our old location today, and today we're answering the question, is the Canadian dream dead? Now, if you've been on Reddit recently, I'm sure you saw this post from r/Canada, which asked this exact question. Now, it got like a million awards and everything, so I'm sure if you do a quick Google search, you'll find it. I'll also link it down below if I remember, but in case I forget, I'm sure a quick Google search will find it. In fact, this post is so controversial and consequential that for this week's Andy Reacts, I'll be exclusively talking about this post and this post only. So yeah, without further ado, let's jump in. Alright, so I'm just going to read you the entire post and then I'm going to share some of my thoughts on it. So same routine as usual. So here we go. Is the Canadian dream dead? The cost of life in this beautiful country is unbelievable. Everything is getting out of reach. Our new middle class is people renting homes and owning a vehicle. What happened to working hard for a couple of years, even that decade, and you'll be able to afford the basics of life? Wages go up $1 and the price of electricity, food, taxes, insurance all go up by 5. It's like an endless race where our wages is permanently slowed. Buying a house, buy a car, own a few toys, and travel a little. Have a family, live life, and hopefully give the next generation a better life. It's not a lot to ask for. In fact, it was the only carrot on a stick the older generation dangled for us. What else do we have besides hope? I don't know what direction will change this, but it's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel when you have a whole generation that's been waiting for a chance to start life for a long time. 2007, 2008 crash wasn't even the start of our problems today. Please, someone convince me that there is still hope for what I thought was the best place to live in the world as a child. Okay, wow, lost untangle here. So what do I have to say about all of this? Okay, so I've been living in Canada for most of my life, so I can definitely add to this and I can verify that this is indeed true. I've seen the prices of just everything go up and wages have not caught up in terms of the inflation of asset prices and the prices of goods and services, right? So yeah, as I said, basically you're seeing in real time someone who is coming to the realization of the devastating effects of inflation. So when I talk to my friends who are not in the finance industry, they get bored about anything finance related, right? They're like, oh, Andy, please stop talking to me. This is so boring. I'm not interested in finance. I'm not interested in investing. I'm not interested in budgeting, all of this. Well, what I have to say to that is that even if you don't care about finance, at some point the problem becomes too large for you to ignore. So even if you have no interest in investing, it's going to affect you when the prices of groceries skyrocket because, well, you need to eat, presumptively, right? And the grocery store isn't going to care about how financially knowledgeable you are or how much you understand about inflation and all that stuff. The grocery store is just going to charge you whatever they charge. And, you know, if you have no plan to combat inflation, if you have no plan to invest, if you have no like budgeting rules and all that stuff, that's going to negatively affect you. And you're saying, oh, I just want to live life. Well, that's not going to work, right? Like you're going to pay a lot more for groceries and everyday needs, and then it's going to be a bad situation for you. You're going to have a bad time. It's like you don't care about global warming until your entire town is flooded, right? So it's kind of the same situation. And by that point, it's kind of too late to rectify this situation. So what I'm trying to say is that even if you don't care about finance, you need to pay attention about what's happening and what's going on. And in particular, you need to pay attention to inflation. What's going on is inflation. And inflation, I define it as a general rise in the prices of goods and services as well as assets. So, for example, if you remember your grandparents or your parents, depending on how old you are, but your grandparents probably told you that when they were young, they could buy a whole meal for less than $1, right? That's like super normal. And now you can barely get anything for $1. Can you buy a whole meal on $1? I don't think so, right? So the purchasing power of your money goes down. So imagine if you work hard and you're able to save $10,000 a year, but instead of investing it, you just stuffed it under your mattress. Well, then in 10 years, you're going to have $100K, right? Because you save $10,000 a year, but it's going to be worth a lot less than $100K now, that's for sure. So it's not going to buy you the same things that $100K is going to buy you today, right? So this is what a lot of people don't understand is that a lot of people think, oh, stocks is too risky, crypto is too risky, investing is in general too risky. So that's why I'm not going to invest. I'm just going to keep everything in cash. That's actually like a really high risk thing to do as well. You're actually taking on a lot of risk by holding everything in cash because it's something that's guaranteed to go down in value. So you're holding an asset that's guaranteed to depreciate. And why does inflation happen, or how does it happen? Well, there are a lot of causes, but quite recently it's been due to the way that the government has been responding to the pandemic. So what governments around the world did, and this is not just US or Canada, but like most developed countries as well, what they did was they printed a bunch of money and injected it into the economy in response to the economic crisis that's been brought up by the pandemic. So imagine if you're on an island and the only two things on this island are dollars and coconuts. So pretend that coconuts is the only good on this island, and everyone wants coconuts. Now, if I just showed up and handed everyone a $100 bill, the amount of coconuts is the same, right? I haven't increased the amount of goods that's available in this economy, so you might feel richer because now you have $100 extra, but everyone else also has $100 extra, so you're competing against everyone else for the same amounts of goods and services. So you know what's going to happen? The price of the coconut is just going to go up by $100, right? So it doesn't solve any crisis. It doesn't solve any problems. It just inflates the economy, right? The purchasing power of each dollar just went down because the prices of everything just went up. So it's kind of like the same sort of idea. Obviously, we have more than coconuts in our economy, but it's kind of the same idea no matter how many goods or services are available, right? So the only way to increase society's wealth is to actually increase productivity, or to increase the amount of goods and services that are available. So it's like if you wanted more jobs, all you have to do is start digging a canal and give everybody a spoon, right? So that doesn't increase productivity because your productivity is going to suck if you're trying to dig like an entire canal with a spoon, right? That will create a lot of jobs though, and that will create a lot of paying jobs, right? Wages, but that's not going to actually solve any problems, and that's just going to cause inflation. And the reason why inflation is so bad because it's not uniform across the board. So in the example that I gave with the coconuts, I just gave everybody a $100 bill, but in fact, that's not a reflection of real life, obviously, right? Because in real life, you have some people that are already really rich and some people that are not so rich, right? There are people that are struggling to get by and going paycheck by paycheck. So if you're one of the people that are going by paycheck, you probably don't have any like significant assets, right? You don't own a house, you don't own stocks, you don't invest, you don't own assets, right? So the majority of your wealth is tied up in cash, which means that if the purchasing power of cash goes down, well, then that's going to hurt you the most compared to someone who owns houses, who owns stocks, who owns crypto, who owns whatever, right? So it's going to affect you negatively a lot more. So effectively, this is a tax on the poor. So the rich would get to take part in the price inflation of assets, right? Because they see the price of their house go up, they see the price of their stocks go up. However, you don't get to take part of it because you're poor, because you don't own any of the assets, right? So when OP says that the cost of everything is increasing, and they're being pinched harder and harder, well, that's because wealth is literally being stolen from you and ending up in the hands of the rich. And the government is causing this by printing boatloads of money. So printing money, you can think of it as also as taxation without representation, right? Because I bet you didn't vote for the government. You didn't give the government permission to print this much money, right? They just kind of did it. So they're kind of robbing you, and you didn't vote for any of this. So if the Canadian government said tomorrow that they're raising sales tax, like HST, by 5%, I bet everyone would flip, right? Like everyone would riot in the streets. However, if they printed a boatload of money and if they injected it into the economy and caused inflation by 5%, and the prices of everything goes up by 5%, well then all of a sudden we're okay with that. And I think this is just because most people don't understand how this stuff works, right? So if you think about it though, it is the same thing. Fun fact, the ancient Romans actually had the exact same problem. So back then they used coins, and they used, I think, silver coins or gold coins. And what the Roman government did was that they would decrease whatever amount of precious metal that goes into each coin, right? So whether it be silver or gold, they would decrease the amount of silver or gold content in each coin, and then they can make the same amount of coins with like lesser materials like iron or whatever. So then if they needed money, they would just what's called debase the currency, right? Like dilute the gold or silver with iron or cheaper metals. This is happening once again in the 21st century, except we have more sophisticated methods of diluting your currency, which is just central banks around the world, they press a button and then all of a sudden they just created all this money out of thin air. So they don't even need to mint coins anymore, and they don't need to like dilute the content of your coins. And coins these days are not even gold or silver anyways, right? They're like 99% zinc or whatever. So and zinc is like a pretty cheap metal. So we're experiencing currency debasement. That's what I'm trying to say. And I hope you do understand the gravity of the situation. Now, if you do, what can we do about it? That is the second question, right? So what can we do to revive the Canadian dream from the dead? Well, in my opinion, we can revive the Canadian dream, but it's just going to take some work. Right now, it's in critical condition. It's in code blue. So the way that I'm going about this is through investing, obviously. Now, I'm not a financial advisor, and this is not financial advice, so please do your own research and don't just copy me and do what I do. I'm just telling you what I'm doing personally, right? And what I am doing personally is I'm investing in two major categories or asset classes, and those are stocks and crypto. So if you've been watching this channel for a while, you would know that I'm a big fan of Bitcoin, which to me is both a high growth technology play and also a hedge against inflation. So if you don't know, Bitcoin is limited to 21 million coins. And once we hit that number, which we're not expected to until like 2140, so we're a long ways out from hitting 21 million coins. But once we do hit 21 million coins, that's it. There's no more. So it's literally algorithmically, mathematically limited to 21 million, and no one can change that. So Bitcoin can never be debased. And also, it is secured by a large decentralized network, meaning that there's not a single choke point or a single point of failure. So even if multiple governments got together and says, oh, we hate Bitcoin, we want to shut it down, they're not going to be able to. So it is secure and durable. So I can go on all day talking about Bitcoin, but I don't want to waste your time because I actually made a separate video talking about my bullish thesis on Bitcoin, and I'll leave it somewhere up here or link it down below, and you can go ahead and watch that video if you haven't already. But essentially, I see Bitcoin as an asset class that you own, and every fraction of a Bitcoin that you own is a fixed percentage of the entire network, however small it could be, but it's a fixed percentage, right? So of the total supply, and it can never be diluted. So that is tremendously valuable to me. So that's why I'm invested in Bitcoin. Anyways, the other category of asset classes that I'm heavily invested in is stocks or equities, as is known in the finance world. So my philosophy around equities is I want to be in companies that are changing the way that we live our lives. So they're companies that are disrupting our lives in a major way, in a positive sense, right? For example, I'm a big believer in Tesla because I believe that they are the market leader in so many different aspects, not just in EVs, but they're a renewable energy play in general. So it's far more than just a car company because they're involved with things like AI, solar energy, battery technology, HVAC systems, you name it, right? So Tesla has their hands on like pretty much everything these days that's renewable energy related. So I won't go through all my investments right now, but that was just a sample of the kind of companies that really interest me and the kind of, investments that really interest me in general. So is the Canadian dream dead? Is there hope for the younger generation? Well, in my opinion, the Canadian dream is dead if you do nothing, right? If you don't take some action, if you're under the age of 35, you'll soon realize that the old system is not going to work, right? If you haven't already realized that the way that your grandparents and your parents got rich or got, not even rich, but just, well off and lived a normal, happy life with like, 3 kids, a dog, a single house, a fully detached house in like the suburbs, right? Like that's not going to be a reality for you if you don't take some more action compared to your parents. And I know that sounds unfair, but that's exactly the case. because of like just the economic conditions that we're in right now. So back then, savings account yielded more than 0.1 or 0.2% interest, right? That's like the first thing. And back then, it might have been a good idea to play it safe and buy some bonds because the yields on those were pretty good as well. But that's not the case anymore, obviously, right? So in Europe, they actually have negative yielding interest accounts, right? So in Europe, if you put your money in a bank, like the interest rate is actually negative. So you're actually paying money to the bank by like giving your money to the bank, which doesn't make sense to me, right? And that's the case that like Elon Musk was complaining about this too on the Tesla conference call. I'm not sure if you guys heard about this or like heard the conference call, but yeah, essentially Tesla's balance sheet in the European market is being degraded because the interest rates are actually negative. So that's just absolutely ridiculous to me. So again, my answer to the original question is the Canadian dream is dead if you continue to play it safe and just earning the average salary and putting all your money into a savings account and doing nothing with it. So you got to invest. You got to take some risks. And keep in mind, I'm not talking about doing like reckless risks, right? I'm not talking about like just gambling all your money and throwing all your money into a lottery ticket or penny stocks or stuff like that. I really do want you to do your own research, right? So please do your own research and do proper research and become knowledgeable in one or two things, right? You don't have to be knowledgeable about everything finance related. Just be knowledgeable about one or two things and concentrate your wealth into something that you're super knowledgeable about and is super high conviction, right? That you really believe in is going to change the world for the better. So you want to concentrate your wealth into these high conviction plays and things that you really believe in. So anyways, that's it. That's my 2 cents on this post. Good luck to OP and good luck to you if you're in a similar situation. So there is still hope in my opinion. So I'm going to leave the video here. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed the video and consider subscribing if you like the series. Be sure to follow me on Twitter or Instagram, links down below in the description as always. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.